So you've done the self-help and you've dipped into some personal development, but now you ask the question, now what? What can you do? Well, if you want to escape the apathy, step right this way. So twice a year, I teach a course called AUTONOMY. It's a 12-week personal development and training course. What people get out of it is multifaceted. There's curriculum, there's exercises, there's camaraderie, you make new friends. There's a whole lot of interesting things. We're going to hear a sample from the course right now, and let's take a look at the value these students are getting. Charlotte departed this world, I think 2 years ago in March. So probably about 2 years ago. She lived a long, full life. She lived up in Maine, and her website used to be deliberatedumbingdown.com, but americandeception.com was a site that she did with her son. And her son was helping her research, and americandeception.com is where a lot of the source material used to be. Like the copy that we have of the Reese committee hearings is Charlotte's copy. She went and found that copy and got it and circulated it. Her work, I remember when I first encountered her work, I didn't know what to make of it because it's just too overwhelming and out of left field. And I was familiar with Gatto's work, but not as much as I could. So Gatto's work bounced off me the first time. I saw Charlotte's work. I was like, there's something here, but I don't know what it is. I did some more learning, discovered like Tragedy and Hope and Anthony Sutton's work. Then I went back to those two books. I was like, oh, these people are all talking about the same thing. She's talking about the 1934 Carnegie Blue Book, which was the internationalist text inserted into America. So the globalists are like, here's how we're going to insert into American education and turn it into our compulsory schooling and reshape it in our image. And we'll remove the history where we're at war with Britain and that everything will be just hunky-dory. And they got their way and they did it. So Charlotte was she was working in the Reagan administration back, I think in the 80s. And she came across some of this information. She was incredulous. And then she went and dug it up and she's like, oh my goodness, they are systematically changing the attitudes, values, behaviors, and beliefs of Americans to be more in line with communists and collectivists. The removal of individual rights. Basically, it's a way to erode any of America's power. What did America have? We had our ability to coin money and we had freedom of speech and we had all these things. Those separated us from the British Empire. So as they kind of cut those piers one by one, they can do a controlled demolition of the whole thing. And that's kind of where we're at in history right now. So we got front row seats. We're like that movie Grand Tour back in the day. It was time travelers from the future who would go to big events in the past and they would watch it. And it had like Jeff Daniels. It was an early 90s comedy. But there's something to having front seats on like the end of the world type situation. So I don't see it as a tragedy. I see it as a big opportunity, a good call to action for everybody to get on the field and start playing and stop being spectators. Because if these people think they can do this to our world without us seeing it and doing something about it, they're wrong. And we're in motion. So Charlotte, her work spans, decades and decades and decades. And that's her book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. It's a 700-page book. It's heavy duty. It's an academic quality. It uses real references and resources. It's not hyperbolized, right? But her other big contribution that very few people know about is when Charlotte's father passed away, he was in Skull and Bones. And Charlotte's grandfather used to work for Cecil Rhodes in South Africa. Oh. He was in mining. Okay. So Charlotte had conversations with her dad, but he wouldn't tell her anything. Well, between his death and her going through the attic and then Skull and Bones sending, here's this year's, book for the members. She's like, I got this evidence and there's something here, but it's outside of her purview. She doesn't know. She's an expert on the educational part and she knows there's something to this. She doesn't know what to do. So she calls up Anthony Sutton and says, Anthony, your books on the Bolshevik Revolution and Wall Street and all these sort of things lead me to believe you would be interested in this content. He's like, send it over. So he wrote a book called America's Secret Establishment, an Introduction to Skull and Bones. And in there was a report how the Order 322, how the Skull and Bones Secret Society controls education. And when you go through and compare what they're saying in their documents to what Charlotte had found from the Carnegie, there's a comprehensive plan with multiple secret societies or working groups going toward this same thing with great deal of intention and organization and budget and long-term commitment, multi-generational commitment to their goals. And we as individuals don't really relate to that because we're just like looking for the paycheck next week. So we're playing in a game that is not like checkers. It's not even like chess. It's more like Go, which is a game in Asia to acquire, to conquer as much territory as fast as you can. So it's like a fast moving game. And we're still like at turtle speed. But tortoise versus the hare, I say we just go calm, cool, collected. Let's not panic. It's been going on since before we got here. It's going to go on probably after we leave here if we don't do something about it. And let's figure out what we can learn. Who left us these credible pieces of artifacts, evidence that illustrate what's going on, like Gatto, like Iserbyt, like Sutton, like Carol Quigley. And let's communicate. It's our challenge to make bigger and better media. Let's make Ken Burns type of documentaries, right? TruthStream can do something like that. They have a small production line. What if we got a group of people together and started like churning out the truth in a more convincing way than they churn out the lies?
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days, and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures. They're hosting videos, they're maybe even doing Q&As, and these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at AUTONOMY, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The AUTONOMY course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.